This is the Polygon Helios, and this may be the best value complete bike on the market right now. This bike, as you see it here with full DURA ACE 12-speed Di2, retails for around $5,000 US. That is incredible value. Go look at any other brand out there, Specialized, Giant, Trek, whoever. All of their top of the line bikes with DURA ACE are all around the $10,000 mark. So this is basically half the price. But does that mean half the performance? Let's find out. So, who are Polygon and what is the Helios? Polygon are an Indonesian bike brand that have been around since the 80s and are maybe more famous for their mountain bikes. However, the Helios, is their attempt at an aero road bike, and I've got to say, I'm impressed. So let's quickly do an overbike of the bike as we see it here, starting from the top. So the saddle on this is a pretty generic saddle, very padded, labeled as an Entity Flux 2. Steel rails. You can swap out carbon railed saddles. I guess they put kind of like a mid-range saddle on there because most people are going to swap to their favorite saddle anyway. But yeah, this is one of the ways that they get the price down to $5,000. Anyway, moving down to the seat post, fully adjustable fore and aft. So you've got a whole range of positions you can get into onto the bike, which is really cool. The actual seat post itself is an aero profile with a cammed rear end. Adjustment down here, they put a nice rubber cap on there to keep the water out there and stuff, so that's a nice touch. And that's kind of like a theme on this bike too. The attention to detail of all of these finishings and stuff is pretty impressive. Moving down to the frame itself, like I said, the Polygon Helios full carbon fiber frame. I got mine in the size S. There are a whole bunch of sizes. I think the smallest is an XXS. I wanted to go for the XS, but it was out of stock, so I wound up with the S. So a little on the big side for me, but I'm not very fussy when it comes to fit, so easily rideable. Paint job on it, I don't think it's very offensive. It looks kind of like this kind of gray color, but outside in the sun, it pops and it's got kind of like a pearlescent thing going on. And then the graphics are kind of like this silver hologrammy effect, which is also pretty cool. Again, things that look at first glance don't seem offensive or don't seem too eye-catching, but when you go check them out in detail, the details are there. Also on the frame, a UCI approved sticker because this frame is UCI approved. Always good to see. Actual weight of the frame itself, I'm not sure because like I say, I got this as a complete bike. If I had to guess, I'd say it's around 1,000 grams-ish, judging by what I can see and what I can work out by getting weights of other components. So yeah, not bad for a very aggressive aero frame set. Moving to the front of the bike, the handlebar, the cockpit setup, very impressive. It's the Vision Metron 5D, so a super high-end, super expensive handlebar. Like if you bought this handlebar alone, I think it's like $700-800 US. So to get it on a $5,000 US bike is pretty crazy. Headset duties are handled by FSA and their ACR system, I believe. So yeah, if you do want to swap out the handlebar, that should be straightforward to swap out there. Moving on to the wheels, again, a place where no expense was spared. Full DURA ACE C60 wheels. Wow. So first of all, these are definitely not cheap wheels. Again, the retail price on these, I think it's like a $3,000 wheel set and you're getting them on a $5,000 bike. So the maths is starting to go wonky already. But yeah, not the lightest wheels in the world. Steel spokes, etc, etc. I will say on these, the hubs are very well designed. Kudos to Shimano for that. You can really feel it on high-speed descents. And when you're going around corners and stuff, like the bearings are, well, I guess they're cup and cone bearings, but yeah, the preload on them and all this stuff is perfect and they just roll super smooth. So hubs are very impressive. This wheel set, it's raced by a whole bunch of World Tour teams. So hey, it can't be that bad, right? DURA ACE is top of the line Shimano wheel set. Wrapped around those wheels is Schwalbe 1 tires. So obviously Schwalbe have the Pro 1 tire as like the high-end tire. This is like the second tier tire. So again, it's a $5,000 bike. You can see where they're starting to cut a few corners, but it's an okay tire. Like I say, on any other $5,000 bike, if you saw this tire, you wouldn't bat an eye. Just because it's wrapped around a DURA ACE wheel, it looks a bit weird, but hey, it's a fine tire. As stock, it came with some Schwalbe light butyl tubes. I punctured both of those, so now I'm running Ride Now tubes in there anyway. That is what it is. Obviously, TPU tubes are a good, cheap way to take some weight off the bike, but I'm going to be doing a full upgrade on this bike in the future, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, so group set wise, we have full DURA ACE. Di2, 12 speed, the latest, greatest, what is it, R9100, I can't remember the name. Some brands, when they're trying to save money, you know, they'll do most of the group set is this, but then the crank set is another brand or whatever. No, this is full on, top of the line, top of the line, Shimano DURA ACE Di2. And the version I got, so you can choose when you buy it, I got the power meter crank on there. Again, the DURA ACE power meter, it doesn't have the best reputation in the world, but it's an option for you. I'd probably skip the power meter version and just get power meter pedals in there. But yeah, it's DURA ACE, like, wow. $5,000 bike with full DURA ACE Di2. I don't know how they do it, but that's value right there. If you go check the retail price of a Di2 DURA ACE group set, and go check the retail price of these wheels, and go check the retail price of this handlebar, that's basically already above $5,000, and the rest of the frame's just for free apparently. Oh my God! Wow! And mine came with 170mm cranks. Again, on a size small frame, I'd probably spec shorter cranks if it was me, but that is what it is. Chainrings are 52-36, so kind of good for everyone, non-offensive, and a good climbing cassette on the back as well. So gear spec, not bad. Cranks, crank length, it is what it is. Like I say, I'm gonna be swapping this crank out for an even lighter crank in an upgrade video anyway, so that doesn't affect me. But yeah, the spec on this thing, mind-blowing. Oh, and I know everyone wants to hear it, so let's get a free hub sound check going on. Not the loudest free hub in the world. The wheel balance not bad, there's not much hop. Oh, and before everyone goes mad, this isn't clamped, it's literally just sitting there, so don't worry, I don't clamp my bike on the top tube. Nice. So the range has the A7X, the A8X, and the A9X with 105 Ultegra and DURA ACE respectively. They all feature amazing value and they all feature the same frame and geometry. Speaking of the geometry, this bike is an aero bike, but the geometry seems a bit more relaxed than some of the crazy like aero race bikes out there. This makes it a better choice for people who are less flexible or maybe just for longer rides. Just last month, one guy in China rode a crazy challenge race from Chengdu to Tibet, which in itself is a 3,000 kilometer trip with an average altitude of over 3,000 meter, crazy climbs, crazy weather, etc, etc. Usually that's enough for most people, but this guy decided to ride back as well. So it's usually a 3,000 thing. He got there and went, man, I'm gonna ride back. So he did 6,000 kilometers in 20 days, all on a Polygon Helios. So I guess that shows the kind of endurance this thing can do. So how does it ride? I like the ride. It's definitely an aero bike, which means it may not be as sprightly as a climbing bike on the climbs when it gets steep, and it may not accelerate out of the corners like a lighter bike would, but once it's up to speed, it's just cruising. And of course, I am no sprinter, but when you do get out the saddle and give it the beans, the power transfer is very direct. The Vision Metron 5D bar also feels good in a sprint. I think it's helping that it's also a wider bar than I'm used to, but horses for courses. Now let's talk about the pros and the cons of the bike as I see it. Now pros, the big one is obviously the value. No matter which version you get, the value is through the roof. A full DURA ACE bike for less than $5,000 just blows my mind. The second pro I'll say is the paint job. I love this paint, especially in the sunlight, you know, it really pops. And the last pro of this bike, I'd say, is just the convenience of it all. Like if you're in Australia or the USA, bikesonline ship this to you as a complete bike. You just do some minimum assembly and you're good to go. It's a lot easier than building a bike up from scratch, you know, buying a Chinese frame, buying a Chinese group set, etc, etc. On the subject of building it up, the accessories you get in the box is very, very impressive. They're very, very complete. There's everything from like anti-slip paste through to all of the little Shimano tools and accessories and stuff. You can tell that the guys at Polygon, you know, are really big bike fans, bike nerds, and you know, ride bike themselves, and they've really thought about everything. The accessories, thumbs up. So cons, or what I don't like about the bikes. So the advantage of buying a complete bike is the simplicity, right? But the flip side of that is there's less choice. So, you know, things like the stem length, the handlebar width, the crank length, you don't get to choose these things. Like for me personally, I prefer shorter cranks and narrow bars and a longer stem, but All of these things, I guess, are things that you can change over time yourself, and that's something that I'm going to be doing, but it's just something to bear in mind when you do buy a complete bike like this, you're not getting that kind of choice. Other things that I can fault about this, I noticed this bolt here that pinches the saddle rails. This is also starting to rust. Again, I had the same problem on my Sava. And you know, living in Xiamen, it's always raining, it's very humid, so I guess it's a good place to find out stuff like this. On the Sava, it was a $2,000 bike. It was already here on a $5,000 bike. So I'd rather see them swap this out for titanium or some other sort of stainless steel bolt that's not gonna rust. My final nitpick of the bike, I guess, is just the saddle and the tires. Like I say, when the rest of the bike is so high-end, to see a saddle and tires that are this mediocre, it makes you go, meh. You know, tires, I'd like to see the Pro 1 version, if I'm honest. But, you know, as I said before, tires, you're going to replace them anyway after a few thousand Ks. Saddle, you're probably going to put your favorite saddle on there anyway. So I can see why they put these cheaper things on here to bring the price down a bit. And again, you can't complain at results because, as I said a million times already, $5,000 for a DURA ACE bike. But yeah, there you go. The Polygon Helios is a great value aero bike with great performance to match. I think it's an ideal bike for people who want an aero bike but with friendly geometry, and also people who don't want the faff of building up their own bike from scratch. You know, if you're in the USA or in Australia, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. Check out the links in the description down below. I'll put the links to the bike on their website. As I mentioned earlier in the video, in the next video, I'm going to go on a shopping spree on pandapodium.cc, buy all our tricked out stuff, and see just how much I can upgrade this. I'm going to drop a few $1,000s on this bike to see what kind of level of performance we can take it to, okay? So take a super bike and try and make a hyper bike. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video when it comes out, because I think it's going to be a really cool video. In the meantime though, I think you should check out this video, you'll really like it. And as always, China Cycling out.